Hello, Year 8. I'm going to talk to you about shape poems. In this little presentation, there are some shape poems which I'm not going to read out. So just pause the video when we get to them and you can read the poetry for yourself. What is shape poetry? Well, sometimes it's also called concrete poetry, and it's poetry whose visual appearance matches the topic of the poem. The words form shapes which illustrate the poem's subject as a picture, as well as through their literal meaning. So, for example, you might have a poem about a crescent moon, and on the paper, it's written in the shape of a crescent moon, and the topic of the poem is also that moon. So, the shape that you see and the words that you read complement each other, and they both describe, depict the thing which is being written about. Shape poems have been written for thousands of years. The ancient Greeks discovered that they could arrange letters in an interesting and visually appealing way. And I think the reason that they have lasted and the reason people like them is that they actually give you pleasure. They give you visual pleasure in looking at the pattern, the picture. They give you intellectual pleasure when you read the words, but together they kind of are more than the sum of their parts. They're actually more successful and more interesting than either thing would be on its own. And I think also that's why people like having a go at shape poetry, because you don't have to be a brilliant poet to write a decent shape poem. You just have to have an idea and be able to execute the idea simply and successfully. Now, a very famous example of a shape poem is Lewis Carroll's poem, The Mouse's Tale, from Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. And of course, being a mouse, it's going to have a pun on the word tail or tail. And this is the Mouse's Tale poem from Alice in Wonderland. So the skill is to make the visual depiction as successful as the poetry itself. Anyone can write a shape poem, but to do it well is a skill. I like this little example of a spider spinning its web because you can see very clearly it's a spider's web. There is a spider there. The pattern of it, I like the way it's got the crisscross pattern, which is actually the pattern of a spider's web, and then the words as they circle round seem to enhance that. I like that one. I also think this one is rather clever, and this one is actually a little bit more sophisticated, and it is about footprints. The words in that one are clever. I've noticed in my travels through the internet that fish and animals are popular subjects for shape poetry, I guess because it's quite easy to think of words to describe fishes and animals, and their outlines are pretty indisputable. You can't really say that is not a whale. I like that a lot. This one is appealing too. This is a high heeled shoe, and I think that's quite successful. One of my favourites actually is this next one, which describes a plane taking off. And what I quite like about it is that you can read the words of each little plane shape in different ways. So you could say a click, a sputter, a whoosh to roar, a flick, a shudder, a push to soar. The wings steady, the nose held high. The plane is ready to touch the sky. I think that's quite simple and remarkable, actually. I think it's lovely. The name concrete poetry, which is sort of the official name for this kind of this genre, dates from the 1950s. A group of Brazilian poets called the Noi Grandes, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that, held an international exhibition of their work and then developed a manifesto to define the style. I don't think this is ironic. I think they really did do this. It's a bit excessive for a style of poetry, but why not? And the manifesto states that Concrete poetry communicates its own structure. Structure equals content. Structure equals content. It's simple, actually. So I like that. There are two types of shape poems, if you stop to think about it. One, outline structure, and two, lines of words. In an outline structure poem, the outline structure shape is filled in with words which relate to the topic of the poem, and the mouse's tail fits this type of structure. In the second type of shape poem, the lines of words make the lines of the shape, and these are probably easier to write, and children write these. So, for example, this is one about a Christmas tree. The lines make the shape. So over to you. We'd like you to have a go at writing a shape poem. So on the document in the classroom, there are some ideas of how to have a go at doing this. And also there's a short 1.5 minute clip here from an educator, a poet, to help you get started. So have fun and write us a shape poem. Thank you.